Hi, it's Erica and welcome to another Demo Plus, and I just want to show you a few little tricks that you can do with this gel press plate. Now, we've had I've done a demo before on using the Nellie Snellen gel plate, but this is a little bit different. Keep all the packaging because it's really important that it's kept in this for storage, otherwise it'll get damaged. But it is a very thick gel plate, so I want to remove the two layers. Again, keep those, you keep them for future use, and I'm going to actually put it onto an acrylic block. Now, the reason I like these small ones is that you can actually use them as a stamp. So when you're doing multiple layers, you've got a better chance of getting them exactly where the previous one was. These ones are way more expensive than the Nellie Snellen plate. The first gel plate was good as a experiment, but this one does a few more things, and that's what I want to show you. So first of all, I'm just using the Paperartsy Paints. They are great for layering up, bearing in mind the different finishes you get. So we've got an opaque, which is a solid colour, translucent, which is you'll see through, and semi-opaque, which is somewhere in between. So when you're layering up, bearing this in mind, because it'll depend how much the layers are seen and how much they're hidden. So I'm just going to put a little blob onto my plate and then just use a roller to roll it out. Now, I could just take a print from this now, but what I'm going to do is press something into it, and I'm using a stencil, and then I'm going to layer one on top and press through. You can press quite hard because it's quite a squidgy plate. You can see it's going in like a cushion. So that's my impression from the bits. And then if I lift the stencil up, I could use my stencil for an impression. Let me just bring that in. So that could be put onto something. Well, it's not too much, but you can see there's something there. But also the plate has something left on it. So you've got a kind of negative and positive. I think I like both of them, so it's just two different ways of doing it. Obviously I need to get rid of the paint, so again, you know, on spare paper you can just roll it off, get rid of it that way, and use that for a print. I'm going to get through a lot of paper, and that's what happens with this, you do get through a lot of paper. Let me just give it a quick clean, because I don't want any green to mix with the colour I'm going to use next. Let's just clean as much off as we can. Again, I'll just roller it, just make sure it's dry. So I've just got, let me just take a little bit, make sure there's nothing on there at all. I mean, you can be as fussy or as, you know, or you can leave the paint on there, it's not a problem. So now I'm thinking I'm going to try and do a solid one and line it up with that, what I've just done. So let's have a go. See, you don't really need a lot of paint, a little bit goes a long way. Don't want to have any lines in it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put this one down, then try and line it up. It doesn't have to be perfect, but perfect as possible. Press that down. So you can see by this, using this size, I've got the opportunity with the acrylic block to actually use it as a stamp. Not going to come off, I'll do it this way. Give me a chance to press a bit harder again. And there we are, we've got the double layer. It looks really pretty. And because it's an opaque and the green was an opaque, you've kind of, the pink has covered it up, but you've still got the outline of it, so it's actually turned it grey. So you never know what you're going to get, which is lovely. So that's the first idea. Now the second idea, I need a stamp. So I'm just going to go and find myself a stamp, or clean my brayer. So for this next technique, I'm going to use a Paperartsy stamp. It's a new one from Everything Arts collection. So let me take that off. But it's got quite a nice lot of detail, so I'm going to use these ones. Now it's a little bit different using these than using the other gel plate, because you can actually have dried paint on the block and it still comes off, which if you tried this technique with the other plate, you'd just get a horrible sticky mess and everything would stick to the plate. Because of the texture of this and the material it's made of, it enables you to remove dried on paint, but it'll make sense in a minute when I've actually shown you what I'm doing. Right, I just need a block, and what I need to do is find my piece of non-stick sheet, and I think I'll use the dark, that's Midnight. Oh, shake it, always forget. Right, so I want to get a thin layer actually on my stamp. So there we go, got the layer on my stamp, and then we're going to stamp this on the block, and I'll do it a couple of times, see what happens. Oh, run out of space. And then we're only getting a kind of ghostly image there, which might look really good. So clean the block is really important, because you do not leave acrylic paint on your stamp, because you will ruin them, and if you spend a lot of money on them, you want to look after them as long as possible. So I'll just give that a clean, put it back. Okay, right, I might just try one more thing with something like that, and we'll see if we can add multiples onto it. Let's go with the green, because I'm just got to think of what my background colour is going to be. So I'll make a puddle of paint, and then I'll use, let's wipe that finger. You get this covered, and we'll put some of these on top. See what happens. This is the lovely thing, it's an experimental process. You never quite know what you're gonna get, so it's fun. Seeing as I've missed, the face has gone out of that, I'll fill it with one of those. One last bit there. Right, okay, clean my stamp, because these are quite detailed ones. The paint doesn't always show them up perfectly, but I quite like that. It's not going to be a perfect image. You can see it's quite bit blobby, but I'm liking that. Right, so clean my stamp, clean my roller. I'll have to clean the plate. Normally I wouldn't waste that paint, but I need to hurry. Right, clean my hands. Oh dear. Right, so hopefully that is all but dry. Now, that's dry on there, but if I try to take it off now, it's not going to come. So you have to have something that'll stick to it, if that makes sense. And what you do is you put another layer of paint down, and then it traps all of that and it all comes off at once. Hopefully that makes sense. So what I'm doing is putting my light colour down, which I've chosen Mermaid. Don't want to disturb that dry paint underneath, but I need a good thick layer of it so it captures all of it. You always think, oh, this isn't going to work. It might not. It's an experimental kind of technique. I'm sure was just found out because people left a little bit of the last pressing on the page. Right, so we've got it now. So let's put our paper down. Oh, it's starting to separate. Let's quickly grab it and put it down before it separates. Quickly down. Right, let's move that out of the way. So I need to press down nice and firm on this one. I want to get as much of that image transferred as possible. And it's a hope and a prayer it comes out. I think I've got it. Let's have a look. So, oh, should we do it this way? Yeah, oh no, let's do it this way. That's better. So, and lo and behold, it worked! Yay! Always good when it works. And there we go. That dried paint that was on the gel has stuck to the paint that was wet, and we can manage to pull everything off. I love this technique. It's such a cool way to get, and it's one of those, oh, how did you do that kind of techniques? So I really love that. And like I said, you could do it like if you kind of had a patchy lot of paint left on the plate, and while I clean this, it's obviously going to dry, and you might think, oh no, that's gonna mess up now because it's dried on my plate. But like I said, it's a really lovely technique, and it just picks up all the colour. It's also good for getting your plate absolutely perfectly clean at the end. There shouldn't really be any excuse for these plates to get really dirty, other than on the sides where the paint, can you see the paint sort of dries on the edges. So let me see. The nice thing is the Paperartsy paints dry really quickly, so it really isn't that long before you have to start. Let's clean this because I just realised you need to roller it on. I suppose I could put it on, but I don't want to disturb it. So for this one I'm going to use a translucent, which hopefully will then, it gives a thinner look, you know, you can see through it. That hopefully makes sense. It makes sense in my mind. Right, so we'll roller this one on. And we'll see what it does. down. Hopefully it's captured the paint underneath it as well. We'll have a nice clean plate with it as well. Let's got a little bit left on the plate, but on the whole, there we go. So you've got that green and then that yellow showing through, gives a really nice effect. And then I think I'll just do one more layer with it, and we'll go something bold like a coral. And what shall we do? Let's see what other thinking, try this, and let me try one other technique. It may or may not work. We'll put a little bit of coral. Oh dear, I didn't shake it. Oh, how many times? You always know when you haven't shaken it. I haven't used them for a while and they've settled. Shake the bottle. Always shake the bottle. It's kind of good I make these mistakes, so you know. That's my claim anyway. So let's try this, and we'll run this through. I might need a little bit more of that because it's too yellow. I need to get as much of the orange. Let's take a little bit off because it's getting too... Watch me getting a mess now. Pressing quite hard so I can get right through to the actual plate, and we'll see what that does. Again, I don't know what I'm going to get because I've never tried before. Ooh, it's not bad. Right, what you don't want is to get your, if you want a nice clean print, oh, she says, it dropped on it, is clean hands. So we'll place that on top of the gel print already. Ooh, looking nice. Press it down. And yes, it's transferred. And there we go. And you've got some lovely detail and layer going on now, because you've got, you know, this is the wonderful thing about gel prints, is that you build up the layers from them. So now I can just use up some of the paint I've got, because what I was going to try is, obviously you can scribe into it, but just be really careful. I don't really like the idea of this because I don't want to scratch my plate, but you can get some texture going onto it. But you could also kind of paint things into it as well. So let's get some sort of floral sort of thing going. So hopefully you can see that, but you can see I'm making a lot of mess as well. So let's clean my brush and look for a green, and then we'll just add some little details with that. I mean, obviously this is not a work of art. It's just just to show you. And if it dries, I think I might put that base of white down behind it just to see if I can pick it all up. Otherwise I'm going to leave some of it behind. So we're kind of going zingy with this one. Add some dots. The dots are fun because it's kind of springs. It's like jumping on a mattress. Right, so I'm just going to give that a minute to dry. Okay, so it's nearly dry. I'm taking a risk because those dots are a little bit on the thick side, but I'll take my chances. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the white just as a backing, and it'll obviously bring all of it up. So let's get it covered. So obviously it's quite important that you cover. It's quite important that you cover the paint. Need a bit thicker. It needs to be quite thick. Oh, I am losing some of my dots. Never mind. We'll see what happens. I should have used a thicker paint in the first place. Let's see what we get. Right, so it's all wet. It's important you do put it down when it's wet. And press really hard. Get the shadow from the bottles. That's better. So press really hard. And then we'll lift up and see what we get. We've got most of it. Oh, it's stuck in a few places, but I'm pretty happy with that. We've got a nice bit of detail going on, and the white has kind of acted as a glue to pick it all up, but it's also given it a nice nice backing. So there we go. There's another idea that you can play with on your gel plate. Like I said, these ones are not the same as the ones that I showed you before. These are more expensive, but it's quite a nice size to start with, and it gives you a good way to experiment. Plus you can always build, if you put them next to each other, you can build larger spaces with them. But there's some lovely experimental work that you could play with. So there we go, that's the gel press gel plate, and thanks for watching.